Hello, everyone. So today, the building of data utilities in the banking industry to tackle standardization issues. So big topic. And I could see from the previous presentations that we have some experts on the topic today. So just feel free to jump in or to come on stage if you want, because I'm feeling kind of lonely here, but I'll try to make it. So as we could see, today we're still facing some issues when it comes to climate-related data collection, because we can see that all those data are not reported on a consistent way, and we still have some barriers at the entry of to access the information. It can be in terms of cost, because we have been mentioning some of the data providers who can source the information, but still, of course, this comes with a price. So accessing the data is costly, and also the availability of the data, because when we speak about climate-related data, some of the major ones like the greenhouse emissions, also the energy performance certificate or other client asset data or physical risk data, we can say that the data is not always there, and so it's difficult to make any analysis or to come with some insight about the data, because we don't find it there. And there is also the question of the standards, because even if you find the data, you can have several information for a same company and the same data. You can report from several providers, so where you're supposed to have the same information, the same number, you can have diverse information. So what is the rule? What is the right data to take into account? So to tackle those issues, let's say that if we could have access to a better information, which is accessible to everyone, which is also reported in a standardized way, these are three axes that would, of course, ease our lives, see? So it's about organizing kind of structured dialogue between banking industry and with the main objective to advance some practical solutions when it comes to ESG data. So I was presenting kind of the current situation, saying that, yeah, of course, we lack of standards here. We don't have common processes to the way we're gonna operate the data. And to answer all those questions, we can see that there are some different initiatives which are emerging in the market just to start building the foundations of those standards and to drive the way we're gonna collect the information. So, of course, I'm not here presenting all those initiatives because, as I said, there are a lot of them. It's just to give you some clues and some insight about some of the initiatives on which, as a bank, as BNP Paribas, we have been working into. So, first one of them is the ESAP, which is the European Single Access Portal. So the idea is an initiative from the Europe, meaning that bringing the several banks all together to build for them a platform from where they can ask the clients to access to those platforms and to collect and to put their data. Because as we said, when it comes to large companies or corporates, the data is there, and it's we can have it quite easily. But what about the privates and also the SMEs? They don't have their ESG data available. So the idea would be to give them a platform where they could get there and start building and start pooling their data, and those data will be made available for all the banks who have subscribed to this portal. So this is the objective of the ESAP. We also have the NZDPU, which is the Net Zero Data Public Utility. So this is an initiative from President Emmanuel Macron. We have mentioned him earlier today. And also from Michael Bloomberg. So they just gathered to create this NZDPU, which is supposed to be an open, free, and centralized data repository to allow the stakeholders to collect and to access quite easily climate transition related data. So we have this initiative. We also have the GFMA, which is the Global Financial Markets Association. So the idea of the GFMA is quite similar actually to the ESAP. It's about having a platform for the banks and the clients to connect and to collect their information. So how would it work? Actually, it's about building some questionnaires for the clients. So making the collection of the ESG data quite accessible and quite easily through some questions which are like, for example, collecting their information about what are their GHG emissions? Do they report it in absolute emissions, or is it target emissions, and so on? And so through several questions to help the clients provide some information about where they stand regarding their ESG. So this is, of course, we are at the starting point of all of this. And the idea is to say, okay, how can we, as banks, collectively design this questionnaire, okay? What are the information that we want to collect from our clients, and how can we make it easily understandable for them, and how can we help them also and build their energetic transition all together with them? So this is the purpose. And we also have the EBF, which is the European Banking Federation. So actually the EBF is, it's about gathering an association of several banks and to try to find some practical and some concrete solutions to some of the questions that we have. For example, I was mentioning earlier the energy performance certificate. So we do have some questions which are very precise, like should we should we use some proxies? What are the rules that we should apply when we don't have those EPCs? How can we estimate them? Could we like say, okay, even if I have an EPC which is expired, so it means that it's no longer valid, but can I still use it as an estimate? Or when should I go back to the client and collect this information and say, okay, now the EPC, the information that I have is expired, how can I collect back a new one? So I know that internally each bank has been designing some kind of rules and proxies to estimate the information, but what about if we could all, I mean, as much banks as possible, be all together and say, okay, these are the rules that we will apply. Okay, should we use the past due EPCs as estimates? Yes, let's go for it. And then write down and agree all together on some of the standards that we could be applying, and then it eases the way we collect the information, and it's the beginning of the standardization that we can apply here. So as I say, it's about concrete solutions. It's about something which is actionable, okay, with operational outcomes and practical focuses. Okay, just to say, how do we say it more practically at BNP Paribas? It's about being involved in those market initiatives, while of course we mentioned earlier, we talked a lot about regulation. Of course, we need to comply with the regulation, but it's also about how can we be kind of pioneers, and what can be our impact, and how can we drive the discussions with our peers to come to those standards. And so it's about market watch, it's about being there and try to impulse the discussions in a way or another. So all the initiatives that I've been mentioning earlier, we are actively participating to those ones, and it's about being there and propose some solutions based on what we can see on our current work and the struggles that we can face while we try to collect some information about our clients, because actually, yeah, it was mentioned also by you earlier, it's about, we might have several systems to collect the information, but then how can we ease this data collection burden? And also how can we just say, okay, these are the rules that we will be applying, because this is something we have been designing on our own for the moment, but how can we just bring what are the ideas or the way we collect the information? How can we bring those rules on the market, and how can we design something collectively with our peers? Because we can see that from a regulator perspective, there are some rules which are defined by the regulators, but we're not there yet. I mean, they're more focused on asking a lot of information, asking a lot of regulation, but not always designing the way we should be meeting those regulations. So it's up to the industries most of the times, and to the banking, the financial institutions, to find the perfect way to address those topics and to say, okay, how can we report the information, and how can we find some concrete ways to make sure that the information that we have collected is accurate and it is also consistent. So this is our approach. Actually, it's about watching quite closely what is going on in the market, being involved in those public initiatives. So concretely, it's about participating to some workshops with all of those initiatives. So we have some experts in the bank working closely with other banks on those initiatives. And for the moment, as I said, it's really the beginning. We're not come up with some dedicated platforms, but this is the aim. This is the goal of all of this, and we are heavily active on all of this. So I wanted to pause here for a moment just to ask to the audience: do you, for those of you who are bankers or financial institutions, is it something which speaks to you? Are you also involved on those kind of initiatives? Is it, just raise your hands if that speaks to you. Okay, great. So we might see each other in one of those discussions or workshops. And of course, what is also necessary is to define kind of timeline, okay? Because as I said, it's right the starting point of all of this, but where do we want to go? What do we want to achieve in 1 year time, 2 years? But definitely the idea is about finding the proper balance between what is expected by our regulators and what we can provide, and how can we also help our clients. So I would say we are kind of focused on let's say maybe from 2 years from now, hopefully all of those platforms will be, at least some of them, because I don't know what will be the future of all of them, but the idea will be to from 2 years from now, at least, to be able to say, okay, we have built 1 or 2 platforms with our peers through which we can interact and collect the information directly from our clients. It's about inviting the clients to go into the platform and to upload their information, to answer the questionnaires, and then we would have the information at our disposal. But of course, it's also raises some questions of workflow, questions, of course, of data sharing, questions of security, of course, because we all know that it's kind of sensitive when it comes to data sharing. We are in the banking industry, so all of those questions will also have to be tackled, and to make sure that we don't get in breach with what are our security standards and measures. Okay, so do you have any questions or remarks or for me today? No, go.
Hi there, yeah. James Roach from Neural Alpha. Yeah, interested to hear your approach on kind of generating new data around some of these topics, as well as what you're saying about kind of standardization and sharing data. Do BNP Paribas get involved in, generating or like funding kind of areas where you see gaps in the data beyond perhaps disclosure, but more kind of on a, environmental or biodiversity data? Do you see a role for you there, or more as a consumer and aggregator of that data for your purposes?
Thank you for your question. No, of course, we do see ourselves as active, in driving the discussions in a direction or another. It's not just about consuming what will be the results of all of this. It's also about impulsing, and because today we buy a huge number of data, and we are trying to size the teams and to have experts in the bank to be able to analyze those data and to be like provide and to provide some kind of guidance, or at least some ideas of the way we should consume the data. So it's not just about being a consumer. It's also about being proposed something in a direction or another. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Stefan Neuer from UBERG. I have a question on the data gathering strategy, how you explained it. It sounded to me very much like a joint industry approach, committees, data sharing, and so on. Do you also have discussions about the opposite, to say it could be a competitive advantage to, as BNP, have your own data and intentionally not share it? Is that something that is being discussed, or is it just clear that sharing is the better way of collecting ESG data?
Yeah, thank you also for your question. Actually, I think all through the presentations that we had this morning, we all agree that ESG data should be a common good, to be made available, because we are all in the same boat here. We just mentioned it earlier. So the more we can, just share good practices and agree on a direction altogether, the better it is. So I don't think it's about keeping for ourselves all of our data. Of course, we are a bank, so not everything has to be made available on the market. But still, when it comes to ESG, a lot of things have to be made accessible to the public. Yeah.
Thank you, Oliver. Excuse me, Oliver, Clearbank. Just wondering, we've talked a bit about disclosures for emissions and so on. What is your approach to measuring positive impact? So for your investment portfolio or initiatives that you're going after to make a positive impact on sustainable future, how are you going about measuring that?
We do have, of course, some, like everyone else, some KPIs. We do have some of our entities in BNP Paribas which are focused on asset management and investing in the markets and in funds and so on. So this is also about, we can have some KPI. We have some KPIs of okay, what is our participation into investing in those green funds and so on. And also when it comes to another aspect, which is the financing of clients. So how much do we incite our clients to build some, some houses which are named like green and so on. So we insert from the beginning of the process. So in the financing process, we insert some measures, some KPIs to say, okay, what has been all through this year, what has been our percentage of investment in some green financing products, and so on. So these are something that we are measuring, and we are also building. I mean, our businesses are building some ESG related products to accompany our customers. Okay, so I'm sorry, I need to to stop here because we are running out of time. But anyway, thank you all, and I will be there all through the day. So if you want to keep on networking, or if you have any additional questions, I will be free to take them. Thank you.